What's up guys? So today I'm going to tell you about an extension that I built for editing Clojure in EMACS. I use Clojure script with reagent, and I have a function that I use to reload the JavaScript for the web page in the browser. The details aren't super important here, but basically every time I update this function, I also need to call this other function to see those changes actually reflected in the browser. What happens is, as my code gets more complicated, I wind up having all of these load visual customization view statements everywhere, so that I can quickly reload the page every time I make changes to one of the React components. Ideally though, instead of leaving comments everywhere on the page, what I really want is an EMACS command that calls this function directly. And that's exactly what I built. So if you put your cursor at the end of this statement and you type Control-C, Control-S, Control-1, it saves that Clojure expression into your customizations file. Then later on, if you're somewhere else and you hit Control-C, Control-1, it calls that Clojure expression that you saved. Now I can get rid of all these load visual customization comments, and I can just type C1 in God mode when I want to reload the React elements for the page. So if I have a different statement I want to save, let's say this simple little multiplication, just for example, I can type Control-C, Control-S, Control-2, and that statement gets saved in the second register. Then if I go somewhere else on the page, and I'm going to open up the REPL just to make it easier for you to see it, and I type Control-C, Control-2, you can see that it prints 12 into the REPL. The code for this is actually pretty simple, so I'm just going to take you guys through it and show you how I built this. The first thing at the top of the file is I set lexical binding equal to true. Emacs Lisp doesn't use lexical binding by default, and that's something that took me a while to figure out while I was building this. So now it's something that you all have to know as well. So the main idea here is we have this variable cider saved commands, and basically whenever you save a command, so for example if I put my cursor here and I type Control-C, Control-S, Control-1, then it would add the string println ×34 to this list of saved commands. Now we actually use this special function, customize save variable, so that the list of saved commands doesn't get wiped when you close and open Emacs. This is the function that actually saves the expression next to our cursor to the list of saved commands. So for example, if we save an expression with Control-C, Control-S, Control-1 to save the expression in that location. Alright, so this is the part that's a little bit spicy. Let's say I'm hanging out, bopping along, and I write a little function that just prints hi to the console. If I go to call this function and I'm in the same file, I can just type print hi and then Control-X, Control-E to actually call that function. But if I'm in a different file and I insert the same string and then I go to hit Control-X, Control-E, I get an error that the symbol is not defined in the environment. What's going on here is if I just save the string, it doesn't resolve the namespace that the S expression was originally saved in. If I want Control-C, Control-1 to still work and still call the same function, even when I'm in a different file, I actually want to save the namespace along with the original S expression command. And so the way that I did this was actually kind of neat. So Clojure has this backtick syntax that's typically used for defining macros. And if you put a backtick in front of something, it returns the symbol for a particular S expression. But importantly, when you use a backtick instead of a single quote, it resolves all of the namespaces. So if you evaluate this expression in the current Clojure environment, it returns a symbol with all of the Clojure variables properly namespaced. And so what we do here is we add a backtick and then we evaluate the resulting Clojure expression and we store the resulting value in the dictionary of saved commands. These two functions are basically just util functions for updating values in the dictionary of saved commands. I didn't use a real dictionary here, in part because I'm new to Emacs Lisp, so I used a list of values, and then used list operations to update that list of values as though it was a dictionary. Last up, we have exec saved command, which looks up the string to evaluate from the dictionary and actually evaluates it. And these statements to actually set up the key bindings, which just iterate through the numbers 1 through 9, and then set the appropriate key to call one of the methods we've just defined. The full implementation of this is available on GitHub. If you want to encourage me to make more stuff like this, give the video a like, subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you in the next one.